How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
Eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital.
That's difficult to answer.
what's inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? Oh, I'm burning in the dystopia. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the dystopia. This is the final time. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in dystopia. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in dystopia. This is the final
Who the fuck is Karlyn? She's just some sweet lady. She's like in a knitting. She does like a knitting stream. She's like a knitting YouTuber. She does knitting.
Can we grow up a little bit and
Alt
not
Girl
be
sent $200.
retarded?
Have you
Please.
seen the work of Karlyn Borysenko? Anti-commie cult leader and is obsessed with looking at what actual far-left communists are talking about and organizing today, infiltrating them. They infiltrated the universities, schools, media. She has the receipts to back it up. Primary source evidence. Infestation is dire and she calls Republicans idiots eating slop. Agree.
Thank you for the big super chat. Yeah, oh, I know Karlyn B. She's solid. She's funny. I
The
like
great
her.
noticer sent $200.
Literally.
So
not
it's,
Ian.
it's not because I haven't dangled my junk into the combat zone on purpose to get some camera footage, but that's the big part of what's the
Is
problem.
that what you call reporting?
Go
and live
under if
streaming?
you're going to do it.
Yeah,
go
seriously.
undercover. Otherwise, you're wearing a hunk of meat in a lion's den. Nick Shirley, I love you. Take care of yourself, man. Karlyn Borysenko went undercover. Do stuff like that. Like if you want to expose this thing, don't pariah,
But
please.
Ian, here's and I agree with you to an extent.
I watch these streams, and I've been watching a self-professed fascist named Karlyn, who drinks and basically roasts these live streams. But weirdly, she has apparently embedded herself with Antifa before, and so it's such a funny stream because like,
So they tolerate her?
oh no, not anymore. She like, no. She's like, I mean, I don't know if she's trolling or not, but on her stream, she's like, I am a fascist.
Right.
So she's proudly proclaiming she's a fascist. I don't know how much of that is trolling, how much of it is real, but conservatives who are drawn to her stream will say things like, these people are funded by George Soros. And it's the funniest thing because she gets so mad. And she's like, get off fucking Fox News. Stop watching that shit. It's all wrong. Do these people look funded? Do these people look like they have money? They're not funded. It's so, and I guess her bigger point is by saying these are funded agitators and not saying what they actually are, which is anti-capitalist revolutionaries, you dilute what's really happening. Because what's really happening, according to her, and I think a fair amount of people, is that the economy is so fucked. The middle class is diminishing so much. The cost of living is so high that this is the perfect soil you need if you wanted communism to grow anywhere.
All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Welcome to the show, guys. And we're doing it a little bit later today because we have a very special guest that we're going to be talking to for a good bit of the time. But before we bring on Chandler, because I know everyone is waiting to hear from him, we're going to lay some ground rules for how this is going to go. All right. Now, someone said in the chat during the intro, the mods are a little bit sensitive tonight. Yes, that is absolutely true, guys. Because here's the thing. On this channel, we study and research the far left, but I don't do it from a perspective of, kind of your typical conservative content creator where I'm trying to own the libs or I'm trying to score points. I am actually interested in what leftists have to say and how they see the world. Tonight, we're going to be having a conversation with someone that I think a lot of people are interested in hearing from based on the feedback that I got from the, very short conversation he and I were able to have outside of his apartment. And we are going to treat him with respect and courtesy. I don't want to hear any jokes about pooping at Chandler's. I know everyone's got to get it up. You can go over to Veli's channel if you want that to happen. That's not going to happen tonight. We are not going to be bullying him. We are not going to be harassing him. We are not going to be doing the things that conservatives do when they're in the comments on Fox News. That is not going to happen. He is taking time out of his schedule to come and talk to us, and we are going to act like the fucking adults that we are. And if you guys don't like it, you guys can go somewhere else. And so I have asked the mods to make sure that everyone is keeping it above board in the chat. You don't have to like my rules, but listen, it is very difficult to get people on the left to come and talk to us. We've done it a couple times. We've had the Revolutionary Communists of America on the channel. We've had Noah from Midwestern Marx on the channel. And now I'm actually thrilled to be welcoming Chandler to the channel because I want to know what he thinks and I want to know what the real story actually is. So if you want to ask questions, I do think a super chat is going to be the best way to do it for tonight. I will be looking at super chats throughout the stream. I will be taking questions when we can. Karlyn interviewing the founder of Antifa. Yeah, that's one of the most absurd rumors about Chandler, that he's the founder of Antifa. And we're going to give him the chance to speak to that. But one's in the chat. I need everyone to do a one in the chat if you agree to the rules. Is everyone on board? Just be nice, guys. Just be chill. We don't have to be hooligans on the internet, okay? There's a time and a place for that. We are welcoming a guest tonight. Yeah, well, you know what? I'm not fixing the filter right now. That's not going to happen. Thank you. Okay, everyone's on board. Okay. So we're going to welcome Chandler onto the channel. We're going to have a little conversation. Everyone behave themselves. All right, here he is. Chandler, welcome to the channel. We're really glad that you're here.
How's it going? How are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you for taking the time out to chat with us.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I just want to start off with, you kind of captured the imagination, I think, of a lot of people from your activities down in front of the ICE facility with your friends and stuff like that. Can you just give us a little bit of an introduction to who you are and what you believe?
Right. So I just kind of live near the ICE facility, right? I let people use my apartment just using running water, like my bathroom and my sink, right? When they get gas or just if they need to use the bathroom to continue protesting, right? Then also we keep medical supplies here for when people get shot by like 40 millimeter grenade launchers in the fucking head, or like get fucking their flesh gouged out by glass marbles that ICE likes to shoot from their paintball guns. Fun stuff. But anyways, I believe in democracy, right? I believe in what's called economic democracy. It's basically just the understanding that there is no meaningful difference between economic power and political power, right?
Mm-hmm. So you said to me in front of your apartment the other night, you said very emphatically, I am not a communist. And you repeated the same thing to me before we went on the air. So right. How would you define your political beliefs and how do they differ from communism?
So communism, first of all, was created like 200 years ago or whatever now, or at least the core ideals of it, right? And the basics, of course, is, trying to create a classless, stateless society. And obviously there cannot be a country that does that. In order for that to function, it must be a global thing, because you can't defend against any foreign centralized power that wants to invade your stateless society. That doesn't make sense. So that's how I feel about, and then obviously Marxist-Leninists, in other words, Stalinists, that's just an oligarchy. That's just another type of oligarchy, right? That's just a new ruling class to replace the old. And then if we're talking about China, which is just not even remotely communist, it's basically just an emperor and his ministers controlling the entire economy. Just as that, it's basically not that fundamentally different than their political and economic situation has been for the last like 5,000 years, right?
Mm-hmm. So what are your political beliefs then?
Right, I believe in democracy.
So I need to. I just want to make sure we have clarity on this, and I want to make sure everyone's clear about this. I'm not debating Chandler on any of these points. I actually want to get to what he believes. But so we listen to a lot of leftists on this channel, and one of the things that I've seen consistently is that when leftists say democracy, what they really mean is socialism. So they don't mean what we currently have in the United States. They mean overthrowing the capitalist system, overthrowing the capitalist constitution, abolishing the government, and instituting their own form of like consensus driven society. Is that what you mean, or do you mean something different?
No, consensus driven society would be anarchism, where social norms and non-ritualized democratic systems, like technically democratic systems, are how things are decided. But I fundamentally disagree with anarchism as well, because like when there's no standardization, when there is no like if there isn't at the very least a unified culture through standardization of in some way, like a consistent form of ritual structure that allows people to be on the same page, right? Then inevitably there will be cultural changes and uprisings, and small subcultures will get larger, and inevitably, you know, you're gonna result in some strong men having a cult-like following, and then you get fascism or something similar to it, right? But democracy, at least for me and my own personal views, and again, I don't represent everybody down here. I don't represent anybody down here at the ICE protest. I only represent myself. Democracy is when the will of the people, right, is accurately reflected in changes in politics, and when the people have an active say in politics, and most importantly, when they are capable of doing so, right? So it isn't just like modern democracy where people are deliberately misinformed, where education is consistently and systemically attacked and broken down, right? It's where everybody is well educated, has a very easy access to not just like higher education, but high quality fundamental education, right? From like the basis based in what's known about cognitive behavioral science and like developmental cognition, right? So not just like factory schooling where you learn to be a good worker and learn the fucking whatever you need to be a good little capitalist or a good little communist or a good little member of the Workers' Party or whatever, but like actually learning how to interact with your environment in a constructive way, right? In other words, education is the only true empowerment of the working class, of any individual, right? All other rights can be taken away from you.
How do you think that we go from the society that we have right now to kind of something that you're envisioning for a future idealized version?
So the first and most important thing is, as with all politics, directly or indirectly, it's popularity, right? In order for any idea to be possible, right, it needs to be understood and accepted by the vast majority of people in the country, because we don't want a Bolshevik revolution where a tiny handful of radicals storm in, take over the government, and then replace it, right? That doesn't work. The entire country needs to be more or less aware and more or less on board with the change that is going to happen. And in order to do that, all we need to do is just spread awareness that we all have one single common enemy, right? Every single member of the working class, everyone who isn't a member of the top 10%, right? The ruling class, right? The richest people who actually have a say in politics, right? All of us agree. Corruption is bad. And so long as rich people exist, they will inevitably be able to use their wealth and power to grow ever wealthier and wealthier and wealthier. They will use their wealth and power to subvert politics, right? To subvert democracy, whether directly or indirectly. They will influence legislation as they do now, which I don't know if I've already explained it previously, but the 2014 study, Testing Theories on American Politics, that just shows that public opinion has no correlation to change in legislation. Even if 80% of the people want something, it does not happen, right?
Yeah, I think we can completely agree that politicians ignore the will of the people all the time, whether they are on the right or the left. And I think you'll also find a lot of agreement. And some people in the chat might disagree with me, but like a lot of people on my channel, we hate both political parties because we don't think either political party serves us at all. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Right. I mean, they both serve corporate interests, right? To them, the government is just a tool to regulate their wealth, right? The rich, obviously, the politicians themselves are extremely wealthy, right? They use their political power to gain wealth, just in a similar but opposite way to how rich people use their economic power to gain political power, right? They can give give an extremely high-paying job to the sibling or some family member of a politician, right? Like a $400K a year with doing absolutely nothing job, right? Or they can just take them on these fancy trips or whatever. Or probably, I'm sure they have more ways of embezzling or fucking giving bribes than we could possibly know about, us mere peasants, right? And then what happens? Oh, wait, I forgot the most important one, right? They get to decide who runs for office. That's probably the most important one, right? Not only because... Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, continue.
Right. Not only because through campaign donations, right? But because the top 5 richest people in the world also happen to own the top 5 largest media companies in the world, right? The media is owned by billionaires, operated by millionaires. And, their interests are not hidden. Even if you call it left-leaning media or right-leaning media, the only difference between them is how they wish to regulate their wealth and not fundamentally who they wish to regulate the wealth of the nation for, right? This is what happens when you have a privately owned economy where anyone can just limitlessly get richer and richer and richer and own more and more and more, right? The land, right? The land is the country, right? The industry is the wealth of the country, right? The labor that we provide as workers, that is the wealth of the country, but it is stolen from us. They buy up all of our land. They buy up all of our industry. They buy up all of the essential goods and services that we need to live, right? They fucking own the hours of our lives. They own everything.
How did you come to these beliefs? Like what was the path that your life took that led you to these ideas?
I mean, I just kind of have always started from this position, I guess. It's when you look at it from the most basic level, right? When you learn as a child like in high school, I mean, a child, like, I don't know how many of you had an econ class, but when I was in an econ class, my teacher for that Econ 101 or whatever it was called in high school was he was a neoliberal, a hardcore neoliberal, like a Reaganomics guy. He believed in trickle down economics. That's where I really started to understand what capitalism is, because prior to that, my only understanding of how money worked was that it takes money to make money, and that money is power. And in that econ class, where I learned from this fucking neoliberal, or not professor, I mean, he could have been, I think, I don't remember. But he was a high school teacher, so I don't think he was qualified to be a professor, but whatever. And that's what they do, right? And then learning history, you see over and over and over in every single fucking civilization, power keeps accumulating into the hands of a tiny group of powerful people who just go crazy. They become stupid, right? The more powerful they get, the wealthier they get, the more detached they become from reality over and over and over and over again. So it's just like through an interest in history and an interest in behavioral cognition, you just begin to realize that humans are just fucking like this, right? Mm-hmm. Like we can't allow ourselves to get that rich and powerful. We can't allow for a political oligarch like in communist societies, or for an economic oligarch like in capitalist societies. We can't allow for anyone to get that fucking powerful because we become crazy, evil, and stupid.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things I've learned, I've been listening to, well, let me ask you this. Is it fair for me to characterize you as a leftist?
If you define leftism as beginning at either anti-capitalism or anti-authoritarianism, then yes, according
Okay.
to like the original dichotomy of left versus right in like I forgot which French Revolution, where the anti-monarchists would sit on the left and the monarchists would sit on the right, I would consider myself to be on the left.
Okay. So we'll go with the anti-capitalist definition of leftist, which is not for, and I'm saying this for the people in the chat, not for you. That's not the same as liberal. You guys do not like liberals. You guys are not on the same team as liberals. So I'm going to characterize you as just like a generalized leftist. So I've been listening to people like you for a really long time. I listen to all sorts of different leftist groups all over the country. I go to your guys' events. I go to your trainings. One of the things that I know just from listening to so many different groups is that all of the different groups have different varied definitions, and there's not agreement among all the groups about what these things are. And so when you say the word capitalism, I will tell you that, so my understanding from what I've heard from all these different leftist groups is that capitalism is in general is defined as private property ownership, private property being specifically bourgeois property that allows people to accumulate personal private wealth. And then there are different leftist groups that have different definitions of what that means. So I think there's pretty general consensus around home ownership, land ownership. There seems to be consensus around intellectual property ownership. There seems to be consensus around private business ownership. There are some leftist groups who believe that parental rights over children are a form of private property ownership, and so they want to eliminate those parental rights. There are some groups that consider, like in an example of like queer Marxism, they believe that the cultural norms that uphold society, like the nuclear family, are embedded within the capitalist system and they need to be overturned in order to overturn capitalism. There are some groups that believe that individual liberties are a form of private property. And I guess I want to throw all those definitions out there just to see kind of like, what do you agree with and what do you disagree with in that list that I just gave?
So what I agree with is, I mean, ultimately none of those.
Okay.
Because pragmatically speaking, right, it doesn't really matter how ideologically pure your political ideology is, right? It doesn't matter how much sense it makes, right? This is the problem with communism. Communism could work. Anything could work, right? If everybody just started off with the culture, with those cultural norms in place, and everybody was conditioned into those cultural norms, and there was a history of those cultural norms, and all of our infrastructure was built around those sort of cultural norms. And yeah, any system could really work, right? Humans are extremely adaptable. However, those things don't exist. So in order for us to be able to defeat the ruling class, right, we need to do, not necessarily, I'm not a reformist necessarily, right? But again, what we need is a national popular vote. We need to identify the enemy, the ruling class, the ultra rich, right? The corrupt politicians, right? We need to orchestrate it outside of the existing pseudo-democratic system that we have, right? The republic that we have, where we give our vote to someone else and hope that they have our best interests at heart when they obviously don't. We need to give our vote, or not give our vote. We need to use our votes directly and decide. We can't be owned by these people. We don't want these people to own us. We don't want to be their personal property anymore. We don't want them to own the hours of our lives. We want to own our own lives, right? We want to own our own homes, right? We don't want to live in we don't all want to live renting everything, right? Renting our homes, renting our internet, renting our fucking car, or paying rent or paying taxes on our cars, right? Like, sorry, by taxes, I mean like a private tax. You can think of like subscription fees as a form of tax, right? It's a private tax.
Like a registration, like an annual registration.
I'm not talking about registration. I'm talking about your loan payment, right?
Okay.
It's a tax. It's essentially a type of tax, right? You're paying for a service to an entity that is more powerful than you, right? How you define government is like super, like we call the government, but like when there's another entity that has overwhelming power over you, how is that not the same as a government, right? It's just pedantics, or pedantic semantics, whatever. Fuck, I got distracted. The original question, right? How do you define private property? That was the thing I should have started with. Sorry.
Mhm.
So basically, private property. Yeah. So the way that we currently have our society, right? The idea of private property can't be changed that much. Rather, we need to think of this in economic and systemic terms, right? Personal property, owning your own house, right? It belongs to you, right? Owning all of your own stuff, obviously your own stuff belongs to you, right? And this is where the importance of something like economic democracy and the wealth cap ratio become essential, right? Instead of thinking of it in terms of like amassing private property, it's sorry, brain fart.
That's okay. Take your time. It's all good.
Talking about private property, centralization of wealth and power. Right. So think of like a mining town, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a mining town, you have the mining corporation, right? And the people who work at the mine depend on the mine who depend on the city, right? In order for the mine to function. The mine needs the city and the city needs the mine, because if the mine shuts down, then the entire city becomes a ghost town. This has happened many times in like factory towns or in mining towns or logging towns, whatever, right? When the major economic industry, major source of wealth within the town closes, the town closes down or stops functioning, right? So in this mining town, it's owned by a private corporation, right?
Mm-hmm.
That corporation effectively and in reality owns the town. It belongs to them. They directly get to determine the politics of the town because they control the economy. They control all of the wealth of the town, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now imagine that we have, instead of a corporate company, like a shareholder company or whatever, we have a workplace democracy, right? Which is basically just like if we had a really good union and then removed the CEOs and it was just the union owns the company, right? Then we would have an oligarchy of the miners, right? The miners would have overwhelming power within the town still, right? They would be like of a higher social caste, essentially, right? Because their votes would matter more. The things they wanted would matter more, right? They could invest their money in different ways that other people couldn't afford to, because they would just, as a matter of fact of working at the mine, have that higher status and that like elevated legal protection as well, right? Because their union would be the strongest. Their workplace protections, right? Similar to how cop unions can protect them and insulate them from the consequences of their own actions, to where they can just shoot somebody in the back as they're running away and then get 60 days of paid leave. But fucking, what was I gonna say? Sorry, one of the comments made me laugh.
Sometimes it's helpful not to try to keep up with the chat because they're saying a lot of stuff right now.
Right, and then so that would be a workplace democracy, right? But now if we have economic democracy, this is just acknowledging that the entire economy of the town depends on every aspect of the economy of the town, right? Every major part of the economy. So this does not include mom and pop shops, right? This does not include a small family-owned business with only one branch, I guess, or no branches, but just one location, right? That's fine. Like that doesn't need to be publicly, like you don't need a wide scale democratic like social decisions to manage the diner that your family has owned for a few generations or whatever. That's dumb. But the mine needs to be democratically decided. Like the economic things related to the mine need to be like determined democratically by everyone in the town, right? Like such as everybody needs to know how much profit the mine is producing, how many workers the mine needs, if they should hire more people, or if they should increase the wealth distribution throughout the town, right? Or if like how the profits of the mine are going to be allocated, such as like, are they going to be saved for future investments? Are they going to be spent on materials that are needed now? Are they going to be rediverted for infrastructure? Things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's when you eliminate the profiteer, right? The person at the top who is just scraping up all of the wealth and extracting it and sending it someplace else to their fucking private fucking bank in whatever the fuck, right? Fucking Switzerland or whatever the fuck, wherever their bank havens are. If you take out that parasite at the top, the entire town becomes so much wealthier, Like everybody wins and only one evil fucker loses. It's insane to me that everybody is okay with having these corporate feudal lords that just own the hours of our lives. I just can't fathom it.
But
yeah,
how
that is.
has
Sorry,
how has that sorry to interrupt, but like how has like can you give me an example of like a real world circumstance where what you're talking about has happened? Has that ever happened?
No, absolutely not. Economic democracy has never happened.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I just want to do a quick pause here. Veli, no one banned Veli in the chat. Veli's allowed to be here. Veli, please behave yourself and be like, I understand you have feelings, but please behave yourself. And I want to remind everyone in the chat, we are trying to create a respectful environment. I'm asking the mods to make sure you're managing the chat and make sure, like, if people are getting out of line or being disrespectful, please put them in a timeout. And guys, this is coming from me. This is not coming from the mods. I really want to create an environment where we are able to have a conversation here without getting into the typical internet back and forth. So, I mean, Chandler, I guess I do understand what you're saying in some regards. I guess, you know, kind of just to bring it back to what's going on in Portland, what does this and your perception and view of the world, what does that have to do with why you guys are protesting ICE in Portland? How are those things connected?
Ultimately, the current administration that we have, right, the Trump administration, I mean, everybody saw Trump's inauguration, right? Standing behind him at his inauguration were some of the richest people in the history of the world. It can't even be called corruption at this point, right? People, companies, whatever, just outright give him consistent fucking bribes of just like, here's $1 million and please help me pass this regulation. And then they do it. And it's not even below board. It's out in the open, right? You have to pay $1 million to go have dinner with Trump or whatever. And then coincidentally, after you have dinner with Trump, the thing that the law legislation you wanted to get passed is significantly more likely to get passed. It's shit like that, right? It isn't just Trump. Trump is a symptom of the problem, right? And ICE, and not just ICE, not just immigration's custom enforcement, right? But the racism and the fucking the culture war that is perpetuated by ICE, right? It is entirely manufactured for the sake of maintaining power, right? Because the rich are at the point now where money isn't as important to them as control. Originally, the reason that it became so difficult for immigrants to be here legally was because it is profitable to exploit them for their labor. And if they don't have legal citizenship status, then it is easier to exploit them, right? If they don't have full citizenship status, if it is difficult for them to be here permanently, legally, then you can just pay them less money and they have no like legal protections in terms of like labor rights or fucking like union rights or like the ability to defend themselves in court, things like that, right? They're second-class citizens, so to speak, right? Because they aren't protected by the state. So that is why the culture wars, or that is why immigrants have difficulty becoming full legal citizens, right? And then as for the culture war thing, right? This is the media obviously plays into this very well because it is owned by rich people. They want to keep us divided, right? Because ultimately we hold all of the power in this country, right? The working class holds all of the power. We just have been gaslit into forgetting that, right? And what we are doing down here at ICE. One sec.
Okay. Guys, we'll give Chandler a second. He'll hopefully be right back. But please make sure you mount the like button for us. Again, I really want to try to maintain a respectful environment for him tonight. So please, if you have feelings about it, rein it in. Okay, Chandler's back.
Right. So what we are doing down here specifically, right, is fighting against, or not even fighting. We're just getting our ass beat, right? We get shot at, we get brutalized, we get gassed, we get pepper sprayed. We aren't really, it seems like as though we're not accomplishing anything. And arguably, the only thing we're accomplishing is wasting manpower, which is, you know, it works because ICE doesn't have very many people, right? Not very many people want to join ICE because no one likes them. Conservatives don't really like them very much. Liberals obviously don't like them very much. There's not that many people who like ICE or DHS anymore. So wasting their manpower is one thing. I would say wasting their money, but they have infinite money because the Federal Reserve just gives them infinite money. So The reason that we're down here, though, primarily, like each of us individually, because again, we're not organized, right? We're just down here because we can't just do nothing, right? People are suffering, not just under this administration, but under Biden, under fucking Trump before that, and Obama and fucking Bush. It's like every single administration since, at the very least, since Reagan, but really before that also, right? Every single administration, there are people who are suffering for no fucking reason. They just don't need to. It is so unnecessary. It is only to perpetuate internal class conflict, right? So that conservatives hate liberals, and so that liberals hate conservatives, right? So that white people are pitted against black people and brown people, so that communities are divided among stupid fucking like religious or racial lines or whatever the fuck, right? Ideological or identity politics, fucking whatever, right? It is entirely designed, very fucking well designed, unfortunately, and very successfully designed to keep us divided, to keep us hating each other, to keep us blaming each other, so that we continue to focus all of our hatred on the powerless, instead of blaming the powerful, instead of turning our rage on the powerful, because it is easier to blame someone who is weaker than us than it is to stand up and fight against someone who is obviously more powerful than us.
So I mean, what I heard you just say then is that you guys feel like you're at least accomplishing something in terms of like wasting ICE's resources by going out and protesting there every night, and that might be in your minds like the best that you can do is just to go out and waste their resources and maybe like, you know, draw attention to the issue. Is that am I interpreting that correctly?
That is part of it. But like I said, it isn't. No one comes out here thinking, "Oh, this is what I want to accomplish." We come out here because we can't just do nothing, right? We need, even though we know we are powerless to stop large systemic change by just coming out here and yelling at fucking feds or yelling at cops or whatever, right? Even though we know that actually won't cause any major systemic change, we can't just do nothing. We can't just sit here and like fume about it on the internet and hope that someone else will save us from ourselves, right? If everybody got outside and said, no, fuck this, it would be over, right? Instead, they look at us out there protesting and they think, oh, how useless, how pointless, why do you even bother trying? And we're out here saying, come help us. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm. I think I know how you're going to answer this question, but I need to ask it anyway. Would you classify you and your friends as quote unquote Antifa?
According to the government's definition of like some highly organized paramilitary organization, no, absolutely not. But according to like the actual, it just means anti-fascist, right? It's just anti-fascist. If you oppose fascism, you're an anti-fascist. If you oppose racism, you're anti-racist, right? If you oppose chocolate ice cream, you're anti-chocolate ice cream. It's like calling Antifa a paramilitary terrorist organization is as insane as someone saying like, oh, I'm a Christian. Oh, and then like if you say, oh, you're a Christian, well, that must mean you worship the devil, right? It's stupid. It doesn't make sense. You don't believe that. That's not what you believe.
Well, I mean, listen, I've read a fair bit of anarchist literature and anti-fascist literature. And, one of the things I would say is that, like, I do agree with you that I don't think that Antifa is a highly coordinated, organized organization. I don't think it functions like that. But I do think it's a highly decentralized organization that is coordinating essentially through different types of communiques and manifestos on places like Crime Think or Anarchist News or things like that. And we've been through a lot of the documents on Crime Think that describe kind of like the standard operating procedure in terms of dressing up in black bloc, using umbrellas, all the different ways that they try to, like cover their faces and prevent prevent from being identified and stuff like that. Different ways they do direct action. And those kind of mirror some of the things going on at the ICE facility. Now, I know you don't dress up in black bloc, but your girlfriend does. And there are other people down at ICE that do that as well. So I guess if I'm looking at a group of people that are, and again, I'm not trying to make any accusations, so I definitely want to hear your perspective. But if I'm looking at a group of people that is dressing up in black bloc, is following kind of like the standard operating procedure that is written about on places like Crime Think, I have to go, okay, that's a warning sign that those people align with this militant far left ideology. Why am I wrong about that?
First of all, again, calling it an organization implies that there's some kind of organizing. And hilariously enough, the left, which is all about organizing the working class against organizing the many against the few elites, right? Horrible, incompetent, universally incompetent at organizing. Most of us down here don't even like each other.
Okay.
A lot of most of us down here, there's stupid. Calling it a faction is giving it too much credit, right? It's just like friend groups that have beef with each other, and like individual people that don't like each other for some reason or another, right? Or people with like ideological differences, or just like stupid tactical or like petty strategic differences. Like, should there be a camp? Should there not be a camp? Should we prioritize medical supplies, or should we prioritize community support, or should we all wear black bloc, or should we like encourage people to wear black bloc? Like, should we? And it's dumb. It's stuff that I personally think doesn't fucking matter, right? All of that stuff is not very important. But the reason that people wear bloc is to protect their identity, right? It is to keep them safe. And it does work for a lot of people, right? Because if you don't protect your identity, then you end up like me, right? You get doxxed. People start sending you death threats, right? I've received many death threats, like multiple death threats every day from people claiming to be fucking Proud Boys or whatever the fuck, right? And like people literally come up to my door with guns and knock on the door and fucking like try to intimidate me and shit. So like, and it was difficult for me to get a job for a long time, because when someone would Google my name, also fuck you, Valley Ray, it would come up Antifa leader Chandler Patey. Yeah. So, and now that I've been on fucking Fox News or whatever, I'm sure more fun stuff will happen, right? But the wearing bloc makes sense, right? At the same time, there is a problem with the bloc community where people have this stupid subcultural identity, right? It isn't an organization. It is an identity. It is a intangible thing, right? These people don't need to talk to one another in order to have this same culture, in the same way that like the punk show scene, like the punk music scene, or like any specific subgenre of music, right? These aren't organized cultures. People just have these same vibes, and they participate in this vibe as part of their identity, right? It isn't organized. It's just how human tribalistic identities form, right? So yeah, it becomes insular, right? When all of these different leftist groups, I primarily start to identify by their as we're the bloc community, or we're the Marxist Leninists, or we're the DSA, or we're the fucking this or that, or fucking we're the anarchists, or whatever the fuck, right? It becomes cancer. It becomes toxic. People stop caring about actually making like revolutionary movements succeed. They stop caring about making and like class warfare become socially prevalent, right? They stop caring about mobilizing the entire working class. They stop caring about bridging the gap between left and right. They stop caring about actually winning and just start caring about being the coolest anarchist in your anarchy club, or being the coolest fucking whatever in your stupid club. And I hate it. It's cancer. It's toxic.
Okay. Fair enough. I mean, I think so. We have a question from Jeff that I think is kind of like a fair thing. So I mean, we watch a lot of leftist groups on this channel, and I have multiple leftist groups on video talking about how they are advocating for violent overthrow of the U.S. government. And I want to give you a chance to respond to this, because there has been violence down at the ICE facility. I think you guys would argue there's been violence enacted on you. I would argue that there's been violence enacted on people that are journalists down there filming you guys, whether that be Chelly or Katie Davis Gord or any number of these people that are down there trying to document. When do you believe that violence is appropriate? And I guess maybe that might be a qualifier of like, when do you believe violence is appropriate?
I think violence is kind of a waste of time. Whether or not it's appropriate, if someone attacks you, then obviously you should attack them back. Don't let yourself be bullied, right? Don't let somebody hit you and then just fucking stand there unless like it's going to de-escalate very quickly, right? But for the most part, if someone attacks you with the intent to attack you and like targeted, premeditated, they wanted to hurt you specifically, then fight back. don't let them step on you, right? That's common sense, right? But when it comes to like strategically speaking, right, ideologically speaking, violence is a waste of time. If we try to fight fascists with violence, if we try to fight a fascist state with violence, right? If we try to fight whatever you want to call the current administration, the current government, if you try to fight the government with violence, they will win. They have more violence than we do. It's useless. It's not effective. And not only that, but it will make you unpopular, right? The more violence that we use down here, and like, I guess I should emphasize first, like the vast majority of the time, violence is enacted against us by these right-wing streamers who are down there. For example, fucking Ryan, what's his last name? Such an A, I don't remember. Whatever. He's a pedophile piece of shit. Fucking Ryan, he has assaulted multiple people over and over and over, right? All the fucking time. He just fucking, like, literally, he walked by one of my friends and just, like, unprompted, just shoved a megaphone into their, like, physically into their face, like hitting their face with the megaphone, and then just, like, fucking tried to push them to the ground and then hit them in the face. He's a piece of shit, right? And he flirts with teenage girls when they're down there. If he sees a small, young-looking woman in block, then he will go over to them and start harassing them and put their camera in his face and start talking to them and being gross. And then when you talk to him about it, you're like, hey, why are you a fucking pedophile? Why are you flirting with teenage girls, right? He says, why are there teenage girls? Why are there teenagers down here? There shouldn't be kids down here. He doesn't even deny it. He's a piece of shit. Like, literally, when I asked him, like, because I had enough of him, right? I asked, like, why are you only willing to pick on small femmes? Are you only willing to assault small femmes? You're not willing to attack someone your fucking size? He said yes, like 3 times. He repeated it in front of so many fucking people. Just shameless, insane, shameless behavior. He's not the only person like that down there, right? Like, he just assaults people over and over, and we have video of it, and we report it to the police, and the police say, oh well, because they're on the side of the counter protesters, right? Huh. And like, it doesn't help, obviously, that all of the protesters down there, all of the left wing, I should say, protesters down there are very anti-cop, and we just like give the cops shit whenever they're down there because, they're pieces of shit. We hate them and they hate us. So they don't help us with doing their job, right? Like you were standing actually right there when Officer 444 straight up fucking lied to me. He said, oh, actually, it's not illegal to open someone's door and then film the inside of their house. That's crazy. That's so obviously like I had already Googled it and knew that was illegal, right? Like, because it was the second time that this had happened, right? Not the first. And he just straight up said in front of all of those cameras that, oh, no, not illegal. And he's not going to suffer any repercussions for that.
I want to be clear for the audience. So I don't know, like, I know who Ryan is, but I don't know about any of the incidents, and I don't know either way. So I'm not taking anyone's side on this. What I will say is that I do think it's very interesting because if you talk to the more right-leaning people, and I feel like I saw this when I was down there too, I feel like the cops, and I think I've heard this from a lot of other people, are much more prone to be helping out you guys on the left than they are to be defending the right-wing people. Do you think I'm crazy for saying that?
I mean, if you heard that from someone else, then you're not crazy for saying that, though it is crazy to say. Because again, these cops fucking hate us because we hate them. And we tell them all of the time that we hate them. So like, yeah, no, they don't fucking help us. To give an example, Tommy Boy, right? Tommy assaulted, I think 4, I don't know if maybe it was more than 4 by now, but he blatantly assaulted 4 people, right? And the most heinous one that I know of, at least, he was just like walking across the street. And then some guy was just like, literally just standing there, not engaging with them. Tommy just walks by and fucking like punches him in the head, knocks him out cold immediately. And this dude fucking like had to be resuscitated because he was like not healthy. He had his own health problems, right? So
I don't know if I ever saw that because I've been watching a lot of the live streams, and I definitely saw Tommy punch someone out, but they were both fighting and they were both engaging with them. So
that was a different.
That was a different
somebody
one.
in the chat knows the knows the video that
Yeah.
I'm talking about. You should post it.
But, you know, I mean, I don't really want to get into a debate. Obviously, I think sometimes we're going to see things differently, and I think it just has to be okay. Sometimes we're not going to review an instant replay video on the stream, and so we're going to have different perspectives, and that's just the way it goes. I guess I'm curious. Let's go back to the beginning of when you guys started protesting ICE, because you've said several times now that ICE has been enacting violence on you. Can you talk to us about your perception of like some of the things that you've experienced down at the ICE facility?
Oh yeah, the funniest one that's happened. This is one of the times that I was detained, actually. So I was just standing there. I wasn't even talking at this particular time. I was just standing there, bored as fuck, right? This fucking DHS comes out or whatever, right? And this dude, like this newer fucking cop, at least I didn't recognize him. He's just like blatantly harassing and assaulting people, and he had been doing it all night, right? This is actually the or I guess I should say the Fed, the DHS agent, who you may have seen a video where a small femme was just like shield bashed in the face and then fucking like slammed backwards into the ground. Her head slammed backwards into the ground. Same guy who did that. He pushes me with his shield, and I just like back up like, yeah, whatever, you tiny little fucking coward bitch. And he fucking just like tells me to get back again, and I'm like really far back. And so one of my friends, after seeing me being pushed, they get up and they fucking get nearby me and they start yelling at him. And then he fucking bashes that person too, and they go flying. And immediately I am very upset, and just like reflexively, I take one step forward and then stop, like literally a half a step forward and then stop. And then I back up. And then like after like clearly no escalation there, like clearly the moment has passed, I chilled out immediately. He saw that it was chill. And then he like fucking goes to grab me and pulls me. And then I start getting the shit beat out of me, and I get maced by the fucking DHS agents around him. Literally did nothing. Literally did fucking nothing. And then I got detained with my friend who got assaulted, right? And then we got released because we had done nothing, right? They couldn't charge us with anything. And they had been charging us for doing nothing for too long now. So presumably their lawyers, the federal lawyers that have to deal with the cases that they give, the citations that they give us, right, probably got mad at them because they have dropped so many of our citations, and every single time that we go to trial, they have to like try to find all this evidence and build a case against us, and they are like presumably overworked because they don't do that most of the time. They just like drop it because it's obviously bullshit. And as soon as you watch one of the security cam videos, it's clear we were just fucking standing there and they just assaulted us. Over and over and over and over and over, right? They will push us and push us and fucking push us and attack us and like, or excuse me, they will push us and push us. And then if we just like don't get shoved enough, like if they're not satisfied with how much they shoved us, or if we just like weren't submissive enough for them, which, you know, usually is not, it doesn't happen. They just fucking attack us. They just fucking start beating the shit out of us. And sometimes they don't even bother to try detaining us after that. They just start attacking us. It's insane. It's literally fucking deranged. Every single time, too. Every single time, if you ask a conservative, like if you show someone who is pro-ICE, not necessarily conservative, if you show somebody who is pro-ICE, one of us getting a fucking assaulted, they'll be like, oh, well, what did they do? Well, what did they do? We didn't do anything. These people just are immune to the consequences of their own actions. They have a free fucking license to brutalize the shit out of us. And we talk shit to them all the time. And so they think that's fine, right? They literally, we know that they do because we can hear them talking in there, right? They talk shit about us, right? They laugh about how they brutalize people, right? They laugh when they sexually assault women, right? Because we're fucking in there listening to them chuckle and laugh about it and joke about how fucking silly it is when they brutalize small fucking women and small femmes, when they just fucking assault people for nothing. They think it's funny.
Okay. I mean, I think that the people watching the streams have a different perception of this, because I think they see you guys being loud and pushing back on ICE. And I think that there is video of, again, I'm not trying to start a debate. I'm just, you know, I honestly want to get your perception of this. There's video of someone on your side throwing munitions at the ICE facility when they were like, you know, like pepper spraying you guys and stuff like that. So it kind of seems like a little bit more is going on to many of us than just you guys are just standing there innocently and maybe even just yelling and shouting at them. But it seems like there's more going on than you guys just getting brutally assaulted for doing nothing.
So imagine if literally anyone did what they did, right? Imagine if any one of us protesters were even a fraction as violent as any of the DHS or ICE agents. What would you say?
I mean, I would say that if I don't want to be brutalized, like I went to Portland knowing that I was probably going to get pepper sprayed at some point, and that was just going to be the way it was. I went to Portland knowing that I was probably going to be caught up in some sort of melee or something, and there was going to be fighting, and I might get hurt. And that was just the way it was. And I would say that if I don't want to be in that environment, I just don't go to that environment. If I have a political point I want to make, I try to make it in some other way, either by, having a debate with someone, writing a book, doing some sort of other form of protest. And I think that if you guys are putting yourself in an environment where you are actively antagonizing ICE, every single night, then I think that you kind of have to expect at some point that there's going to be, scenarios like this.
We do expect it. But here's the thing. Do you see the subtext of what you've just said?
What's that?
You've acknowledged, right, that they will perpetuate this violence, right? They will commit this violence against us simply because we are there hurting their feelings, right? We have a joke we like to say, we have committed emotional assault on a federal crybaby. All we do is hurt their fucking feelings, and they think that that's justification to assault us, to permanently damage us, right? They nearly kill people on the regular, right? They have shot someone's fucking eye out. They have shot somebody now with a fucking rubber bullet, right? Permanently lost their fucking vision in one eye. They have hit people in the head with 40mm grenade launchers over and over and over. They have shot me with fucking 40mm grenade launchers in the fucking leg. It leaves a big fun welt. They have shot my friends all the time. They are shooting us with these slightly less than lethal munitions that if they were just to be a little bit more rude, we would just fucking die. If we just weren't wearing our fucking helmets, we would just die, right? They are trying to permanently maim us, right? Because we hurt their feelings. They're fucking snowflakes. They're little fucking crybabies.
Well, listen, I can't disagree with some of what you're saying, because when I was at the ICE facility, I didn't get physically assaulted by any of you guys. I got physically assaulted by a MAGA supporter because I stuck my middle finger in his face and told him to fuck off and hurt his feelings. And so I do see your point unironically in that sense. But I mean, I also say it's like you guys are out there making a ton of noise. You're doing it all night long. There are residential apartments in that area. There are people that have lived in those apartments that have been complaining about the noise for months and months and months. I mean, do you guys have any sympathy for the fact that maybe because of your actions, there are people who are being sleep deprived for months on end?
Yeah. Ultimately, I understand. There have been some protesters out here who I personally am extremely annoyed with, who just think that being annoying is a good idea. And I hate that. It's so dumb. I tell them, I try to get them to stop. Being annoying, just obnoxiously loud all the time that won't make the protest popular, right? That isn't defying ICE. They go inside of their fucking concrete building with 2-foot thick concrete walls and fucking 3-inch glass or whatever the fuck, right? They go inside of their building and they can't hear any of the loud, annoying music that we play, right? If you're talking on the megaphone constantly when they're inside, you're talking to no one. Maybe the guy on duty or whatever standing out there, but if he has fucking noise canceling headphones in, you're talking to no one. It's just it's all of that noise is not always necessary, and also not all of that noise is our fault. They throw flashbangs and shit, right? But admittedly, right, most of the noise is created by the protesters, and I understand that it is one way to express yourself, right? But if you are just being annoying, other people won't want to come protest. That's the main problem that I have with it, right? Because as someone who lives here, I can constantly hear it, and it doesn't bother me that much. It's annoying, but whatever. It isn't as bad as I'm a lot more concerned about people who are being abducted without due process, right? People who are being detained for no fucking reason. Children who are crying because they're terrified that their parents won't be home when they get back because their parents, who are here legally, right, just happened to have been born someplace else, right?
But don't you kind of see like the problem too with like we have so many people in the country here illegally now that they're sucking up American jobs, they're sucking up our resources. And I think like, listen, I'm married to an immigrant and I'm married to an immigrant that was not always here legally. And so when we got married, we had to rectify a whole bunch of stuff. That was a 4-year battle with the government to do that. But like I do also think that we have a big problem with a lot of our resources going to people who, from my perspective, don't belong in the country. So I guess like, how are we supposed to handle that problem? Do you believe that borders should exist? Do you believe that we should just be letting anyone in the country and paying for anyone that wants to be here?
Paying for anyone who wants to be here. So, I mean, you don't seem uneducated. You don't seem uninformed. I'm sure you know very well, right, that immigrants receive no benefits, right? They receive no government benefits. They can't apply for I mean, I don't know if they can apply for food stamps, but I know that they can't benefit from Social Security, right? I know that they have like very little in terms of what they can actually gain from the taxes that they pay, right? Because they have to pay payroll taxes, right? They are income taxes, sorry, because their employer needs to pay their payroll taxes, right? But again, the reason that they are illegal is because it is profitable for rich people. Or at least originally that's what it was. Now it is also just so that like the more difficult it is for them to become legal citizens, the more that the culture war can be exacerbated, right? The easier it is to write that narrative, right? And as for like immigrants who are actually fucking like rapists and fucking child molesters, fuck pedophiles and shit, I don't care if they're an immigrant. Why does it matter if they're an immigrant? They're a piece of shit. Fucking get rid of them, right? Make them disappear. Like, why does them being an immigrant is irrelevant to that, right? But like, still, you need to prove that they are that. You can't just say, oh, because you are an immigrant, you are probably that. Therefore, fuck you, get the hell out of here, right? That's insane, right? They're just people, right? Just because they're from someplace else doesn't mean they're bad. Like, they're just as likely, if not less likely, to be whatever kind of criminal than people who are here, who are born here, right? Because if you are here illegally, you are doing everything that you can to not attract the attention of the law. You are trying not to break the law, to like be as under the radar as possible, right? Because if you attract the attention of the cops, you might be fucked, right? Because you're probably like, these people are just waiting for their immigration process to be finished, right? There's no reason for them to not participate in it, right? It is only to their benefit to become legal citizens. When everybody says like, oh, well, why don't you just go through the legal process? Well, they are. It's just, it takes time. It takes money, right? You need to like be able to survive until you have that legal citizenship, right? Why wouldn't they participate in the legal citizenship process? It's like, there is no reason not to. Do you see?
But like, why do we have an obligation to, I mean, because I will say, I did see an article earlier today, and I'm not trying to do a debunk, but I did actually see this statistic for myself. 59% of SNAP benefits are going to people who shouldn't actually even be in the country. And so I guess why shouldn't we be removing them?
Let me fact check that, because
I go ahead. Yeah. And the only reason I bring that up is I actually directly saw that myself earlier today, but I don't have the link.
Wired and Al Jazeera say no.
Okay.
It says 90% of SNAP recipients are American-born citizens. 1.1% of recipients are refugees. 3.3% of recipients are other non-citizens. So I don't know where you got that number from, but
well, we'll have to agree to disagree on that one. But like, but like the larger question is like, there are a lot of people in the country right now who really shouldn't be here, and I guess why shouldn't we be removing them and sending them back to their home country? And listen, I don't wish these people ill. I want them to go back to their home country and make their home country awesome. I just don't think it should be America's responsibility to provide, I guess, refuge for people that weren't born here, for the most part.
Why does it matter if someone is born like here or over there?
Because I think, I think that that's a good question. I think for me, and this is one of the things that I unironically learned from having to go through the immigration system myself, is that there are a lot of immigrants in this country who do not assimilate with American values. They don't learn to speak the language. They don't assimilate to the cultural norms here. They want to bring the norms from their own country into America. And I don't begrudge anyone living by whatever cultural norms they want, but I would like Mexicans to stay in Mexico. I would like Indians to stay in India. I would like, Haitians to stay in Haiti. I would like them to make all of their countries great. But if they don't want to assimilate to the cultural norms here, I'm not exactly sure why they need to be here.
All right. So first of all, I'm not even going to get into the fact that the United States has always been a nation of immigrants, because you already know that. However, I'm going to read to you my favorite, like one of the few things that makes me like actually feel patriotic, and that is the poem that is emblazoned within the base of the Statue of Liberty. So this is written by Emma Lazarus, and it's inside of the Statue of Liberty, right? Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. That is New Colossus. It is the poem inside of the Statue of Liberty. Understand that the vast majority of the people in this country are like only second, third, or maybe fourth generation immigrants ourselves, right? Very few of us can say that we have been here for longer than that, or at least that some part of our family has been here longer than that, or hasn't been here for that short period of time, right? I myself, my great grandmother was from Ireland, right? Like I met her, I talked to her, I interacted with her. She was very silly. But the only people who have been here the entire time are indigenous people, right? And that includes, to a larger extent, most people we call Mexicans. They aren't like, they're Native Americans, you guys. Most of them are just Native Americans, right? And even if they don't have that tribal identity still, I'm just like, in terms of their family lineage, right? The reason that we have this trope of them having such big families, it's not just because they tend to be Catholic and have large families, it's because they've been here for so long, right? And white people haven't. That's why we don't usually have as big of families. They just have lived here longer.
Well, I mean, I think, because my like half of my family came from Ireland too. And so I understand that. Like my family came from Ireland. They came over through Ellis Island and all of that stuff. And it's a typical story. The other half of my family came from France. They settled in Quebec first, and then they came down into Vermont. And, the difference though between my family and I think that the immigrants I see in America today, and I think this is probably true of your ancestors as well, is they came here and they kissed the ground of the United States and were thankful for what the United States offered them, and they assimilated to the culture, and their generations after that assimilated to the culture. My grandparents and my great-grandparents still spoke French, but they also learned how to speak English, and they spoke English in the home, and they raised us speaking English. And I think that the difference between what happened a couple generations back and what's happening now is there are immigrants that are coming to the country now that never learn the language of the country, that never assimilate to the cultural norms of the country, that have absolutely no desire to assimilate to the norms. Like we see all of these, I can point to what happened in Los Angeles back in June, where you have all of these immigrant rights organizations that are running around with Mexican flags saying "Make California Mexico," like basically giving the middle finger to the United States, talking about how much they hate this country, talking about how much they want to make it like their homeland. And it's like, well, if you want that, go back to where you came from. You literally don't have to be here.
So, first of all, our ancestors, the vast majority of immigrants prior to World War II and after, I guess, too, they didn't come here and abandon the culture of the place they came from. That's just not reasonable to say. That's just doesn't make sense. You can't just up and leave and then think, I will abandon my culture and embrace this new culture. No, it's like you bring the culture, like still in New York, there is a strong Italian culture, right? And it has become its own subculture. Right? It's become very Americanized in a way, but like, it isn't that they stopped, it isn't that they lost their Italian identity, right? They hold on to that, right? There are Chinese or like Asian immigrants of whichever nationality who've lived here for like many generations, right? But they still hold on to their cultural identities in like cultural fucking areas or whatever, right? There's like yeah, I mean, you learn the language because it's super fucking convenient to know it, right? But like, what if you don't have the ability, like what if you don't have the free time to do that, right? What if you spend 12, 15 hours a day working and you like, that's it. That's all you have. You have to work in order to survive and you're still living subsistence wages. Like, how are you going to learn the language? Because like because I work in construction. So like all of the immigrants, presumably that I work with, right? They like they are trying to learn the language constantly, right? They obviously are trying to learn the language because it is so beneficent to do that. Why wouldn't they, right? They are trying. It's just that they don't really have much free time because they are busy working to live.
But I mean, I would argue that if they're working in an environment where everyone spoke the language around them, it would happen on a much like faster basis. I mean, immersion in when you're trying to learn a language is pretty much one of the best ways to learn it. So why isn't everyone around them speaking English and, kind of just like providing that environment?
I mean, that environment is being provided to them. And there's also, I mean, like, yeah, that's just a weird, sorry, that's just like a weird thing to say.
No.
They are trying to learn. Like I interact with them. We all interact with, like, all of my coworkers interact with them, right? We can tell when they aren't very good at English, and then we like communicate in different ways, right? Because we're all experienced with it. And then there are people who speak both English and Spanish, lots of them, obviously, who help them constantly. Like, this is just a normal thing in construction environments, right? And blue collar environments where there are a lot of Spanish speaking people, right? They are learning. They are constantly learning, right? So like, I don't understand when people say that, like, oh, well, they don't speak the language. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously they're not very good at it, right? It's not their native language. They're trying to learn, but they're kind of busy, right? It's not that they don't want to. Obviously they want to. If you lived in a foreign country and didn't know the language there, everyone would try to learn the language there. It's like, I just don't understand that argument.
Fair enough. We have a super chat with an interesting question, and thank you guys for the super chat you've been sending in. What is Chandler's viewpoint on what he considers a criminal, and who/how are they dealt with in the society that he envisions? Who does the policing and determines what crimes are enforced? I think that's a great question.
It is a good question. I'm glad that you asked that question. So I am, you probably inferred, I am ACAB. All cops are bastards, right? So ideally, there's only like two ways to deal with a criminal. One, the vast majority of people who commit crimes are desperate, right? It is crimes of desperation. People don't steal things like petty theft, right? Like blue collar crimes, right? People don't steal, like rob a fucking convenience store unless they are desperate, right? People don't resort to like drug abuse and fucking like remaining strung out constantly unless they are severely depressed and have given up on life because like they have severe mental health problems, right? So the vast majority of people who like we see as criminals or who we view as destitute or like undesirables, right? They just need help, right? And this is observed in other countries with different punitive systems where instead of just like punishing people and putting them in a prison where they serve as slave labor, they just like treat people, right? They like help people who commit crimes, right? They give them the ability, like they teach them skills, like life skills. They let them pick career paths and gain new skills, right? And then they don't like hold their crime over their head for the rest of their lives so that they then like can't get hired anywhere because, oh, now you have that on your criminal record. Doesn't matter what skills you have, you're not getting hired here, right? It's like, instead of punishing people for needing help, you just help them, right? Instead of picking on poor people when they're down, instead of like fucking literally kicking a homeless person because they are down, right? You just help them stop struggling. And then it is way cheaper, actually, systemically speaking, right? To give an example, in California, I think they spend like $120,000 a year per homeless person.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's all of these shitty nonprofits just siphoning off wealth from the government, from the state government, right? And from the whatever federal grants that might be related to it, right? All these fucking like unnecessarily complicated hierarchies of non-government, nonprofit organizations that fucking like claim to try to help people, but actually their fucking CEOs just have like 400K paychecks or whatever the fuck. So like, yeah, it is just, if you would just help people directly instead of having all of this stupid profiteering bullshit, right? Not only would it save time and resources, but it would save people. And that's what matters, right? You don't want to punish someone who needs help. However, there's one class of person that I personally think should not be allowed to exist at all, under any circumstance, and that is people with extremely high trait psychopathy, right? People who are incapable of pro-social emotions. In other words, psychopaths, sociopaths, people with antisocial personality disorder, right? Because no matter how much you try to help them, they will always be incapable of understanding or imagining that other people have value. They will always be as exploitative as they are physically capable of being. They are just evil. They are truly, inherently, naturally born evil. And it sucks to suck. And there are things you can do to like prevent a child from becoming more psychopathic as they age, if they start off with those behavioral traits or with those genetic markers. But like, some people are just born evil and they will ruin everything for everyone. And like, when you think about it, like most of our society, right, is just running damage control on sociopaths, on these psychopaths who will fuck over anyone in order to make themselves richer or more powerful, right? Because if everybody would just like not be a piece of shit, we wouldn't need all of these fucking, all this red tape, right? All of these stupid fucking fine print legislation and whatever the fuck to try and regulate huge, ginormous pieces of shit who just want to hurt everybody. But anyway, sorry, I went way off track there.
No. I think that's fine. I actually have a kind of a related question to this, because one of the reasons that you've kind of come across, like that you've made the kind of the national spotlight, is because there was an incident outside the ICE facility where a leftist, basically smacked Katie Davis Court in the face with a pole, gave her a giant black eye, and then ran away and allegedly hid in your apartment from the police. And I just want to, obviously, I don't think that this person's life should be ruined forever because there was an incident in which she was involved. But like, do you understand why people are a little bit upset about that? And do you wonder, like, what do you think should happen to that person who just like smacked another person in the face because she was documenting what was going on in the ICE facility?
Right. First, let me say to people in the comments, if you got here late, I'm not a communist. I don't like communism.
Yeah.
I don't like the USSR or China or anything like that. So please stop calling me a communist. But as for the Katie Davis Court getting hit in the face with a flagpole, the reason I'm laughing is because if you were there, it was hilarious. Ryan, what's his name? I can't remember. It's the same Ryan, right? Allegedly Katie Davis Court's cousin. He was trying to like wrestle the flagpole away from this kid. And then while he was wrestling it, it just fucking hit Katie in the face.
Okay, but she still got hit in the face with a flagpole.
Mm-hmm,
and the person who
Ryan.
did it
By
still
no, the person who did it was Ryan.
I don't know. I don't know that aligns with what I saw, but bigger
She
picture
wasn't
than that.
she wasn't like swinging a flagpole at her face to hit her. She was trying to pull the flagpole away from someone who was like trying to steal her object, right?
But she still ran away and hid, and I guess I understand that because you guys think
because she's a kid. She was afraid.
Okay.
Right? And we are constantly like persecuted. Even if we do nothing wrong, we are attacked by the law, right? So like obviously the kid would run away and hide, right?
Well, but I think, can you understand why people like the journalists down there might feel apprehensive? Like they're getting hit in the face with things, and you say like Ryan was responsible for that. I'm not speaking to that either way because I'm just not going to speak to it. I will say that if we look at someone like Honey Badger mom Chelly, they're like someone down there made pins glorifying her getting beat up. And so can you understand why people might be apprehensive about your side, like physically attacking journalists?
In a lot of the videos, or I mean, all the videos that I've seen, or excuse me, all of the times that I have been down there and then seen the videos later, there's a very important part of the video that's missing. It's when the journalists assaulted one of our people, and then they just cut that out of the video.
Are you saying that Katie Davis Court or Shelly Honey Badger Mom assaulted some of your people?
Mm-hmm.
What is your story for what happened?
I mean, I've been down there and I've seen them, and they just like, even if it's just like slapping someone's phone out of their hand or something, or just like pushing someone away, right? Like legally that is going to be called assault. If we did the same thing, then it would be blown up on right-wing media and called assault, right?
I saw you guys doing the same thing. I saw the two brothers that are down there. I saw them like slapping people's phones out of their hands. Like it happened right in front of me multiple times. And so like
I don't know,
but I would say like I spent a fair bit of time like standing right next to Shelly when I was down there, and I just saw her standing there holding a camera. Didn't think she was assaulting anyone.
Oh, allegedly, the girl, the flagpole girl, was being stalked before that incident. Right, Ryan was stalking her and following her around because she was a young girl. She and her friend were young girls.
Okay. Well, I don't think we're going to get to agreement on this one, but I'm glad we got your perspective on that. I did have another question that came in via a super chat that I wanted to show. Janet asked, does Chandler acknowledge the current increase to the US population puts a strain on resources so everyone is left struggling, or does he think that myth is being perpetuated by the wealthy?
So actually, that's an interesting question. So generally, or in the past at least, an increase in populations, like at a steady rate especially, has only ever been a good thing, right? Because when there are more workers, there is more labor, people produce more value, right? In fact, our country especially has a problem of we don't make enough babies, right? Without immigration, our population will begin to decline in a way that is like bad. If you look at like population growth in countries over time, there's an ideal ratio for like how many people need to be born in order for the economy to continue growing, right? Because especially under capitalism, you need constant growth. And if you don't have more workers in the past, you couldn't have constant, steady growth. So a steady growth in population is important. And recently we have not been having enough babies. And so we have relied on immigration in order to keep our population growing at that steady rate. And that is also one of the reasons why immigration is made more or less difficult depending on our population size, right? And at the moment we are in the low end, right? We don't have enough young people, right? However, there's an interesting caveat to this, which is the individual productive capacity of any given worker has now exceeded the profitability of having everyone be employed, right? Because of AI, because of automation, right? Because of how the wealth is centralized in the top, right? The economy no longer, or has not for a long time, served the interests of the vast majority of people, right? Because the economy serves money. It doesn't serve people, right? Most of our GDP, right? Most of the money exchanging hands happens within the top 10%, right? And so our economy has shifted to serve the interests of a tiny handful of people. And now all of the small social work jobs, like the social service jobs, right, that used to make up about 60% of our economy, people don't have enough money to like pay for things, to go out and buy things anymore. And so all of these customer service positions, right, all these social work jobs, they're leaving. And now all of these higher education jobs and these social work jobs and all of these routine jobs are being replaced by machines and AI. Do you see the problem here? There is now not enough work and not enough money to create not enough money in the working class to create new jobs, because all of the wealth that is being produced by these new technologies is being siphoned up to the top, right? We don't see any of the money or any of the wealth that is being created by this improved automation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like when we talk about population statistics now, it is not just a matter of like resources, right? Because we throw away literally over 100 million tons of food every single year just because it didn't get sold, right? How many people are going to suffer in very, very soon because SNAP benefits are going to go away? They're just going to end because the government didn't want to pay for them, right? Because they decided that it was more important to give ICE an advance on their fucking paycheck, or more important to spend another few $1 billion on a new AI factory or a new AI server, whatever the fuck, right?
Well, I mean, and I agree with you about the food. I think the laws around food and the amount of very of perfectly good food that gets thrown away is abominable, and I think it could be handled very differently. But I want to go back to the AI thing because, like, from my perception, like, you know, I understand what you're saying in terms of like AI is going to eliminate a lot of jobs. I think that's absolutely true. But also, I think AI opens up a lot of opportunities for people to learn how to use it, to take advantage of it. I mean, for me in particular, I knew nothing about AI a year and a half ago. AI has revolutionized the way I do my business. It's revolutionized the way I do my research. It's revolutionized the way I do writing in terms of being able to produce books much quicker than I was able to produce them before. And so I guess I wonder, Chandler, like, is there like, if we're talking about America and the American dream being like a place of opportunity, isn't there opportunity for anyone to kind of learn how to use AI, to learn how to prompt, for lack of a better term, and to utilize AI to be able to create whatever business or whatever kind of like situation they want?
How are you going to create businesses if no one has any money? Like,
Well,
no one in the lower class economy has any money, right? So like we are currently facing, again, wealth inequality is the fundamental problem here, right? You can't start up a new business if you are shit broke.
I actually fundamentally disagree with that. I think it's never been easier to start a new business. You can start, for example, I'll give you a perfectly good example. You can start a merchandise store today using designs that you create using AI, all extremely low cost or free, and start selling that merch that's all just printed on demand. And if you're doing really cool designs and you're getting it out there, like on social media or whatnot, that is a business. And I say that because I literally have that business. And it's like why can't anyone do that? Like, we have like free or extremely low cost resources. You can pay for Canva, that's $20 a month. You can pay for ChatGPT, that's $20 a month. So maybe not totally free, but like pretty dang close to free. Why can't anyone take advantage of these resources to create? And it's never going to be a big business, and so I understand that, you know, it's never going to make you like the uber rich, but you can do just fine and create a perfectly nice life.
So first of all, I just need to address how dystopic that is. So personally, I hate AI, at least as it is. AI is like demon tech as far as I'm concerned, right? It's like, oh, look at all the great things it can do. And also it will be the end of society as we know, or like just society in general, not just as we know it, but it will like destroy the world. Yeah, I mean, how many jobs can be created? How many small businesses can be created realistically, right? Versus how many jobs are going to be destroyed, right? How much wealth is going to be, or how much wealth production, right? Direct wealth production, right? Is going to be stolen from these AI companies, right? Like, real question, like how much do you think is like vaguely, not real numbers?
Probably quite a bit, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, you know, if you want to talk about like the founding of America in terms of like the Statue of Liberty and welcoming, you know, the tired, the poor, and all that stuff, like, I mean, you could go along with that story and say like the whole point of this is like, come to America, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, work hard. And I think that AI and a lot of the technology that we have available provides an extremely fertile environment, much easier than my grandfather had it when he started his draftsman business in central Vermont, much easier than my father had it when he started his business. And it's like, we have all the resources today at our fingertips. And I think that, you know, I mean, pardon what you might consider to be like a little bit dismissive, I think there are a lot of lazy people in the world that don't want to work. And I think that the people who do want to work can take advantage of these resources to create something for themselves. And it's all extremely low cost to do it. So why aren't we saying, you know, yes, AI, like I actually don't disagree with you in that I do think that AI will eventually probably end up destroying us. But until it does, why can't we utilize it to make our lives better in some way?
All right. First of all, blaming individuals for systemic problems is that's just like bending over and taking it in the ass. Second of all, like from the ruling class, right? That's just insane propaganda, right? But second of all, people work so fucking hard. Like people on the bottom need to work so fucking hard just to subsist. So many of us down here, protesters down here, have 2 or 3 jobs, right? And we are barely making ends meet, right? So many manual labor workers need to work long, grueling hours at a physically demanding job that is very difficult, but extremely necessary, right? In order to just barely survive, right? It's not that people are lazy, right? It's that people aren't necessarily willing to be exploitative, right? People don't have the means or know how to participate in the capitalist side of a capitalist economy. And not everyone is willing to do that, because in order to be a business owner, if you're going to have employees at least, or no, even just selling things, right? You are necessarily needing to exploit wealth, right? In order to generate a profit, you are necessarily needing to take wealth from somebody and turn a profit, right? And like, that's too like much of a fundamental criticism, and that specific dilemma has, more than just 1 or 2 books arguing for and against how wealth is extracted from the bottom, right? But the basic point remains the same. Not everybody can be a small business owner, right? There needs to be workers. There needs to be people creating actual wealth, right?
I don't know. We can agree to disagree on that, but I do want to hit on something that you just said, because this is actually a conservative, talking point that I would love to debunk, and you kind of just said it. One of the things I hear from right-wingers all the time is that the people protesting down at the ICE facility don't have jobs, and that's why you're always there protesting. Can you please talk to us about some of the people who are down there and whether or not you guys have actual jobs that are separate from the ICE facility?
Yes. I mean, I'm not going to tell you about individual real people, because it's doxing.
Yeah, I'm just saying in a generalized term.
Right. So to give an example of one person who works 3 jobs, they have a main job, which is, like a normal fucking office job. And then they have a second job as a bartender, which is obviously part-time. And then a third job doing something else, which is legal, but rude to mention. But they dance. And then there's another person who works as a fucking, what's it called? It's not hard. As a preschool teacher, right? Or I don't think it's preschool, but it's as a school teacher for young children. There's a couple of teachers out here, actually. I don't actually know everyone else's job, but most of our medics down here are either like currently medical students or like EMTs or like shit like that, right? Like they're actually professional, like medical professionals, right? And yeah, I mean, like I myself, obviously, I'm a carpenter, right? And some of us down here, like I know one other person who's a carpenter who has a second job doing like lifting stuff, right? And they're just barely making ends meet as well, because they have a family, they have a wife, and they have 2 kids. And so like we are all working, and it's not just us, right? Our situation, our material circumstances aren't fundamentally different from the vast majority of you, all of you, right? Like all of us here, right? We work and we struggle to survive, and it is difficult. It is not because we are lazy. We want a good life for ourselves and our families. We want to have like security, right? And so because we don't have that, we find people to blame. But for some reason, why though? Why do we blame immigrants? Why do we blame trans people? Why do we blame anything other than the people who are stealing the wealth from us, who have all of the political and economic power, right? Because there are only 2 possibilities. Either the people with power are malicious or they are incompetent. Either they are succeeding or they are failing, right? And some in between might be around there, right? But like ultimately we see that rich people are getting richer and richer and richer and richer, while our material conditions are not significantly improving, and in fact at this point are deteriorating. We are struggling to live, and they are doing better than anyone has ever done in the history of humanity.
I mean, so just to recap, like, so pretty much like everyone that you know down at the ICE facility, they do have a job. Some of them are, bartenders or they work office jobs. You're a carpenter. You said there are multiple teachers down there. Do you guys have any, like you said, there are medics or people in med school that are down there? Are there any lawyers that are down there? Do you guys have lawyer friends?
I don't know anyone who protests down here who's a lawyer. I know people who are like currently, like as a result of recent immigration stuff, are like attending courses on like how to be like a legal advisor, or like I forgot what it's called, but like not a lawyer, but just like a certificate you can get to do some like legal help work, that like, because there's not enough people doing legal work right now. There's a huge shortage of lawyers, right? Because in order to get a law degree, you need to like go like $300,000 into debt or whatever. So yeah, there's not enough people doing law stuff. So there's all of these law firms and like the ACLU and the NLG are like trying to get people to take their courses so that they can have routine workers who like go out and talk to people and stuff. But yeah, I don't know any like actual lawyers, other than occasionally there's like lawyers who are down here, especially during the day, who are like immigration lawyers, who are professional immigration lawyers, who aren't here to protest. They're here to talk to their clients or whatever, whatever it's called.
So you mentioned the NLG specifically, and that's certainly a group that is getting a lot of attention right now. Do you guys like work with the NLG, or like what is that like? Because I saw them down there. They were wearing the green hats and they were kind of look like they were like observing things. Like, how does that work? What is your guys' relationship with them?
Those aren't lawyers. Those are legal observers. Their job is literally just to write down the things that happen, and they receive like very short training. I don't know. I haven't done it. I don't even remember what it's called. But yeah, they just undergo like a several, I don't know, I think it's like a few days where you just like learn the specific types of infringements that you're probably likely to see, and then you just write them down and you don't interact. They're not supposed to be engaging with protesters or even like talking very much to protesters, other than to like help like figure out, like, listen to reports about what they say. Then they can take all of these legal observations and then like hand them over to real lawyers who are too busy to be down here, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and this kind of gets into a question that I think a lot of people have. So how exactly are you guys funding the stuff that you have down there, from the costumes to the gas masks to, I saw medical supplies in that like encampment that was set up. How exactly are you guys funded?
Most of it is, basically all of it is community support, right? So people who want to help with protesting, right, who want to be a part of the resistance in any form or fashion, but are not like either in terms of like time or just like distance, or like maybe they're just not physically fit, or maybe they just don't feel safe coming down here, right? They want to help in some way, right? So they donate, and they donate either money or they donate fucking supplies, right? And most of the thing, we don't get very much money donations, right? Because it feels weird asking for money all of the time, right? So we don't really promote that as much as we try to promote like, hey, here's the stuff we need. Just give us the stuff that we need if you're able to, right? But there are problems with that, because we often receive way too much of one thing that we don't need that much of, and then not enough of another thing, because like the individual unit price is too expensive for people to afford, like gas masks, right? It's like $145 or something, I don't remember, for the full face masks. So like we don't get enough of those, and you need those. You really need those. Just a normal respirator doesn't cut it, because if you get maced or if you get this tear gas, right? But yeah, most of it is donations.
What is the point of the costumes?
Oh, the point of the costumes?
Yeah.
It depends on who you ask. The inflatables are, there's mixed reviews among protesters down here. Personally, some of the people who come down for the costumes, I guess, the purpose of the costumes is to make the protest ridiculous, right? To make it less serious, so that more people are willing to come, right? That is like one of the things that it can do, right? Because it is a way to protect your identity without looking like spooky black bloc Antifa. But at the same time, the types of people who come down in those inflatable costumes oftentimes are less serious themselves, right? They aren't as serious about the protest necessarily. So, I mean, some of them are, right? They're all individual people. But like as soon as the police start being brutal, as soon as the federal police start being violent against us, all of those people, all of the libs who come down, right? Because most of these new inflatable people are libs, they leave. And then it's just like the handful of normal, like people who protest there regularly, right? Just having to deal with all the brutality ourselves. And it's like, when there are more people, the cops are less brutal.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you a question about some of the groups that you guys like that are on the left that you may or may not affiliate with. Like, I guess, like as a generalized question, are there any sort of like groups either from like, you know, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, the Revolutionary Communists of America, the Democratic Socialists of America? Like, are there any groups that you consider yourself to be a part of or affiliate with?
No, actually, I hate all of those groups, especially the first one.
Why? What? Tell me more about that, because I actually have been trying to tell the right this, because the right is all teed off about the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Can you explain why you hate them?
Because they're Marxist-Leninists. They're fucking elitists, right? They don't want to uplift the working class. They want to tell the working class what's best for them, right? They're fucking. It's basically just like advanced liberalism, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they're elitists. Yeah, I hate Marxist-Leninists with a burning passion. I struggle to even consider them leftists, because it's like they're basically just like, it's like, hey, we won't become red fascists this time, guys. We won't have a dictatorship or an oligarchy this time. Come on, you gotta believe me. So yeah, I don't like them. As for the DSA, I used to be a member of the DSA, but no longer, because hilariously, the DSA at the recent national convention was actually, the majority was won by none other than Marxist-Leninists. And I hated the DSA even while I was in it. I kind of like low-key had a lot of problems with the DSA that only got worse, right? Because they were being elitist, right? They were being fucking, they didn't want people to join the DSA. They wanted the DSA to become like a parallel power structure that would serve as like similar to like the DNC, where they would like have candidates that they like put into positions, right? It's like they want to be an oligarchy, and I hate that, right? They don't want a democracy, right? They want a Marxist-Leninist democracy where they have like a huge series of tiers of representatives, and you just have to hope that each one of those representatives isn't corrupt, and it's so dumb.
Mm-hmm. So you guys then, you and your friends out there, you're like just a bunch of people that you've just been going out there and doing this, and you have like some loose affiliation with each other, but it's not like you're part of any official group. Is that right?
Sorry, I zoned out. Can you repeat that?
That's okay. I'm just trying to figure out, like, I just want to put a like fine tooth comb like point on it. It's like you and your friends, you're not part of like any what you would call like any of like these groups that are kind of like on the left. You're just, you guys are out there protesting, and you're kind of loosely affiliated with each other, but there's not any sort of official organization or group that you're a part of.
Yeah, there's no organization at all. It's, again, problematic how disorganized we are, because we have a lot of people out here who, like the majority of the people out here, I don't know about the majority, but a lot of the people out here actually like don't have a specific political ideology to begin with. They're just like, I hate it here and I need to do something. And like when you ask them about anything about politics, they're like, I don't like it when the cops hurt people. I don't like it when the cops assault my fucking neighbors. Or like, I don't like it when the government tries to like institutionalize racism or whatever. There's like specific things that affect them or their friends and families that cause them to be out here, right? And when you target an entire like race of people, like an entire skin color or ethnicity or whatever, you're gonna piss off a lot of people. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. What is your opinion on the Portland City Council and the DSA members that are on it? And follow up to that, do you think that they're going to be successful in getting the ICE permit pulled?
My opinion on that's actually one of the only things the DSA has done that I have liked. The fact that we have 4 city councilors is really cool. Or I say we, sorry, I only left recently, so I keep saying we. But the DSA, the fact that the DSA, that there are 4 socialists in office on our city council is pretty good, right? And I generally like them as far as that goes. I don't agree with them on everything, obviously, but they're a heck of a lot better, in my opinion, than another cop, right? Like another person who's just out there to make rich people richer, right? And as for the permit thing, they're not trying to revoke the permit. They don't want to do that. And it makes sense when you think about it, right? Because here are the options. Either they can revoke the permit and then face direct retaliation from the federal government, right? Or they can just make it so that the building, right, that all the violations of their permit that they are currently committing, that they could have used to argue for the repealing of the permit, they can instead use to leverage and increase the fines on that property, or to increase the city property tax, or whatever the fuck. I don't know the specific legal bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But basically they just keep extracting more and more money from them until they want to leave. Because if we kick them out, then they will hate us. But if we just keep taking their money, and they'll hate us and they'll cut our funding. But if we just keep taking their money and taking their money and making it less and less fiscally feasible for them to continue to operate there, then maybe they will eventually leave. Now, I personally don't like that, but that is the thing that they are doing. I think that we should just kick them out, and in full understanding of the consequences of that, and knowing that it will result in direct retaliation. I still think that we should, because if one person doesn't make a sacrifice, then nobody will, right?
Mm-hmm. Chandler, what are your guys' plans now? So the encampment there got torn down. Do you guys plan to try to rebuild the encampment in some way, or what do you guys see happening next at the ICE facility?
I wish they wouldn't, but there are people in the protest who love camp. They like camp. They want to make the camp better. And they think the camp is super great. I don't think that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they will probably try to do it again, but I'm not one of those people. And from what I've seen, it's a pretty even split among regulars down here. That camp was a bit of a problem in the past, and now it has just become too much of a target, right? Originally, it was there are people on the front who are protesting more than they are sitting at camp, get upset at how many people just sit at camp and don't protest. And then the people who are at camp, I don't really know what they think, because I'm one of the people who protests instead of sits at camp. So yeah, the camp is not necessary, I think. That's all.
How long do you think these protests are going to go on for? Do you guys anticipate protesting through the winter, just indefinitely?
I don't know.
How long do you plan to protest?
How long do I plan to protest?
Yeah.
As long as it takes, until I have some better way to use my time to resist the ruling class and to unite the working class, right? Because the main thing that I do down there isn't even necessarily to protest ICE, because they aren't out there, or ICE and DHS, because they only come out sometimes, right? And then I go and I explain things to them and try to get them to understand that it is actually to their own detriment to do their job, right? That it is bad for everybody when we persecute anybody. But and again, I guess I forgot to bring this up when we're talking about labor, right? Sorry, this is a tangent, but it's important.
It's okay.
When immigrants are paid shit wages, when field workers are treated like slaves, right? Or when immigrants are paid really low wages in construction or any field, right? It is bad for everyone, right? It's bad for everyone when anyone is being exploited. because then it means that our wages as legal citizens or whatever, right, goes down, right? Wage inequality, right, is bad for everyone. It is bad for men when women get paid less than men. It is bad for white people when brown people get paid less than white people, right? These things are bad. They're bad for all of us, right? All of us should be getting paid livable wages that are proportional to not just like the profit that we produce for our economic overlords, but just like proportional to the value of our labor to society, at the very least, if nothing else, right? But anyway, where was I? Sorry.
Not sure. But I do have a question, actually. I think this is an interesting question to ask. So let's just say that George Soros came out to the encampment and he offered you a giant ass check and said, "Here you go, Chandler and company." Would you guys take the Soros funding, or would you take it?
Absolutely. Why would we not? That would be awesome. Fuck yeah, we would. Why wouldn't we do that? That would be great. But like, also, who's George Soros? Like, I know that he's like from Austria, I think. And like, I know that he's like a philanthropist. Actually, I remember reading, it was a long time ago that I actually Googled it because everyone was like, "Oh, George Soros this, George Soros that." I was like, who the fuck? But I'm pretty sure he's actually like donated like 60% of his wealth or whatever to like charities or whatever the fuck. And when I see that immediately, I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah, very, very cute. Donating your money to charities. Because like this is a thing a lot of rich people do, right? They'll create non-profit organizations or whatever, or they'll create these charities, or they'll like donate money to charities that are like doing a thing that is profitable to them in some way, right? And then they'll just like, hey, free tax write-off, and I spent the money doing the thing I wanted to spend it on anyways, right? So like, when a rich person donates to charity, they are grifting.
I actually agree with you on that. Let's see. We did have another interesting question come in, and I know we've taken a lot of your time tonight, so I really do appreciate you you hanging out with us. Let's take this question. What, if anything, is the funniest thing that Tommy has said to you guys during his antics? Do you find anything that Tommy's doing funny or entertaining?
The funniest thing that he has said was the other night. It was on video when we were in front of the apartment right over here. Is when I pointed out that the KKK, in fact, there are no white supremacist organizations in the United States that are legally classified as domestic terrorist organizations. None, not a single one, right? And I said, like, the KKK is not legally classified as a terrorist organization. And then Tommy, fucking without breathing, without fucking.
Oh no, we lost Chandler. He was about to get to the punchline. Oh no, we're frozen. Oh wait, we're back. Chandler, you were about to get to the punchline, and you froze. What did Tommy say?
So I said the KKK is not legally classified as a terrorist organization, right? Mm-hmm. And then Tommy, like right off the fucking bat, without waiting for a thought to pass through his stupid head, he says the KKK is way less violent than Antifa. And I just fucking, it was the funniest, dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. Like, wow. Does he actually believe that, or does he just not think? I think he just doesn't think, because there's no way he actually thinks that.
Well, I think a lot of people on the right, I mean, we see videos of things the Antifa has done in the past, like whether it be property damage or, you know, attacking our friend. I mean, I know many people who have gotten in physical altercations with Antifa. And so I think he probably does believe that. But like, are you guys also like honestly worried about the KKK? Like the KKK has like a couple hundred members. It's not even like really a real organization anymore.
The KKK, the Ku Klux Klan. Let's see.
Like I hang out with the actual white supremacists and the neo-Nazis, and ain't no KKK coming around in those groups anymore. I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be around that stuff. I mean, I there are a lot of people on the right that I disavow for being way too toxic, but like if that group did exist, I would probably be exposed to it in some way.
Current membership. Sorry, I'm wondering.
Oh, go ahead.
So the current Ku Klux Klan membership is estimated to be between 3,000 and 8,000 individuals among various factions. So yeah, it's significantly fewer people, but the fact remains, right? When the KKK was ginormous, you know, like it was around the same time that the Black Panthers existed still, right? Or that, sorry, the KKK was prevalent around the time that the Black Panthers were also prevalent, right? And which one of them was labeled a terrorist organization, and which one actually like hurt many people?
Well, I think we have to think about it in modern times. So if the KKK isn't really causing problems now, it's kind of like should they, like I perceive like the far left to be causing more problems than the KKK, but we're probably going to disagree on that.
Right.
So here's an interesting question. I think as we're kind of just, I think we're starting to wrap things up here. Assuming ICE leaves Portland, what do you guys do next? What's the next target?
The next target? Everyone here is an individual. I don't know what they would do individually. So when you say what is our next target, I don't know. My next like thing is the same thing that I have been doing, right? It's just trying to convince as many people as possible to like disregard the culture war, right? To stop like giving any credence to racism or bigotry or transphobia or whatever, or like stop hating immigrants because they're just normal people, man, right? It's like stop blaming powerless poor people for systemic problems, man. Like, it doesn't matter how much you hate immigrants. It doesn't matter how many immigrants you deport. It doesn't matter how much you hate trans people. It doesn't matter how much you hate liberals or how much you hate conservatives. It won't make a difference. It doesn't matter how much you hate poor people or powerless people. It will never change anything. It will never benefit you, ever. If you want real systemic change, if you want your lives to improve, stop hating people that can't do anything. Try hating people who have all of the power over you, right? Try hating the people who actually control your fucking life, who control all of the wealth you create, who control everything around you, who own this fucking country. Try hating them instead. And try getting everybody that you know to hate them instead. Remember, never forget. Always bear it in mind, right? If you can just convince one more person, just you can convince one more person, and then that person goes on to convince one more person themselves, or if you can convince two people and they can convince two people, it will only be a matter of months until we just win and the ruling class is deposed peacefully, right?
Well, I mean, I guess maybe this goes along with this question here. What do you see happening in the country in the next couple of years? And I guess maybe what do you hope happens and what do you think will happen, which might be two different answers.
I don't know. I mean, what I think is about to happen in like 2 months is if the government doesn't do anything about SNAP benefits being halted, then there will be hunger riots, and not just hunger riots, right? Because SNAP isn't only for the people who get the food stamps, who need that food, right? SNAP is also for the businesses that accept those food stamps, because that's them getting paid, right? They're getting money from those food stamps, right? So like, and also the corporations that have those food stamps assured as revenue for them, right? They're also going to suffer a big loss as a result of that, right? There's going to be a huge economic blow because there is suddenly a sharp decrease in people buying and selling food, and people need food to live, right? What do you do when you have no food left to eat?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You go and you tear down the gates, you get out the guillotine, and you eat some cake.
Well, I hope we aren't getting out the guillotine anytime soon. I hope that's not going to happen. We do have one last question here from Janet that I would love to get your thoughts on. Do you and your cohorts believe in the nuclear family, or do they value the family the collective creates as a higher value? Where do you guys stand on that?
I can't speak for anyone, but if I had to guess, I would say the vast majority of the people down here do not value the nuclear family that much. Or if you're asking like specifically if we value traditional gender roles, then no, we don't like patriarchy down here. Patriarchy hurts everyone. It even hurts people like me, fucking cishet white men, right? It's bad. It hurts us all, right? For the same reason that I just said, right? If other people are being oppressed, it is bad for me as well, right? And also because, well, I'm not going to get into that. That would take way too long. But when it comes to like the nuclear family, no, not really. Humans are social animals, right? Raising kids by ourselves is not fun. It is stressful. It is fucking depressing, right? It is so much healthier and better for children and for parents to have a more like community-based way of raising your kids. It's not that other kids are your kids too. It's that like you hang out with your neighbors or whatever, or your friends, if they don't need to be your immediate neighbors, whatever. But you go to a place where you can all have your kids, like take care of your kids together. And then, yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's so obvious that it seems stupid to say, right? But humans are social tribalistic animals, right? We will always do everything that we can to be good members of the tribe. And that is like something that is foundational in our cognitive development. And it's something that we do not properly like address in children and in parents. And parents, sorry, go ahead.
So go finish your thought.
Oh, I was going to talk about how depressed a lot of mothers get in like traditional family roles, right? They get super fucking depressed because they hate their fucking lives, right? Because they have to do all of that work alone. And then the father usually doesn't properly respect how difficult it is to be a fucking stay-at-home mother or stay-at-home parent. It's like there is so much that needs to be done, and it is lonely.
Do you agree with the gender abolitionists and the gender nihilists that think that the only way to abolish the patriarchy is to abolish gender entirely?
I don't know. Maybe. Gender abolitionism sounds pretty fun, though. Just thinking of it like, because, there's so many different like identities that people come up with, and it gets more convoluted all the time. And I have a lot of friends who like have all these different types of gender identities. And I'm really like, I'm not like insensitive about it. I just like don't know how it all works. And like I try to understand it, but ultimately at the end of the day, like that ever expanding factionalization and like the need to like categorize every tiny little difference. It's like, just like fuck whoever you want to fuck, man. It doesn't matter. Like wear whatever you want to wear. It's fine. Right. Like act however you want to act, as long as you're not hurting anybody, as long as you're like in consensual relationships, it's fine. Like you don't need to have all these stupid labels,
Fair enough. Chandler, is there anything that you wanted to say that we haven't had a chance to get to tonight?
Let's see, what did we go over?
We've gone over a lot of stuff. I feel like it's been. Do you feel like this has been an okay conversation? Do you feel like I allowed you to say what you wanted to say and didn't do like gotcha bullshit?
No, yeah, this was definitely a good conversation. I think the one thing that I need to drive home, it is the absolute most important thing, right? Is that there is no point in claiming that the purpose of a system is to do what it constantly fails to do. The purpose of a system is what it does. You cannot claim that capitalism provides opportunity for everyone when only a tiny handful of people succeed. You cannot say that, oh, well, if only people worked harder, because everyone is working hard and not everyone is succeeding, right? You cannot say that, oh, if only we had the right regulations, then maybe capitalism would work better, because we had great regulations and they were constantly eroded away at by the rich, right? Corruption got deeper and deeper and deeper until we wound up where we are now. There is no meaningful difference between economic power and political power. There is no way to regulate capitalism, right?
Fair enough. We got a couple more super chats and we'll do these super quick. Could the time, energy, and resources of the protesters be used for something more beneficial and productive in the community?
Probably. Do you have a suggestion?
I don't have a suggestion, but maybe, maybe, to him. Well, maybe he'll be able to do a follow-up if he wants to.
Many of us are asking ourselves that same question all the time. Is there some way that we can better help immigrant families? Is there some way that we can better help people who need help? Because most of us are broke. In fact, really, like all of us are kind of broke. We're leftists. We're anti-capitalist for the most part, right? We're broke. We don't have money. It doesn't pay to be an anti-capitalist. So,
no, fair enough. It doesn't pay to be a fascist on the internet either. I'll tell you that. Have you in the course of this interview, now that you've met a friendly fascist, has your mind changed about fascism at all? Can we bring you over to the fascist side of the aisle?
Would you like to talk about the nature of fascism and corporatism?
Well, I mean, so my perception and why I kind of joke that I'm a fascist on the internet is, and I was actually told this by one of the protesters down at the ICE facility, is that if I'm an anti-communist, that means I'm a fascist. So I guess it depends on the definition.
I mean, do you support an authoritarian regime that gets to decide everything about the way that you live, that has ultimate control over the morality and the economy of the country? Do you support that?
I think it's difficult for me because in my heart of hearts, I'm an anarcho-capitalist. I'm
Okay,
I'm
then
barely
you're a
I'm
corporatist.
well, no, I want to abolish the government, but I still want to maintain my right to own private property. I don't want anyone to be able to take my house. I want to have big guns and all that stuff. But what I will say is, like, in my ideal world, and I understand, like, like I don't want there to be. I don't want there to be authoritarianism. I also think that I've become more of a realist in this regard, in that I kind of believe that we're going to come down to a decision between, do we want some sort of dictator, or do we want far left communism? And I think it's much more likely that a lot more people are going to die under communism due to starvation and mismanagement of resources than would die under some dictatorship. And so it's like, okay, do I want a dictatorship?
Those two
No.
things are the same.
Well, maybe. Yeah. Well,
I mean,
and I
a
understand that you think that.
dictatorship,
Yeah.
they're both authoritarian regimes, right?
Yeah.
It's a false dilemma to say that our two options are authoritarianism and authoritarianism. We don't need to make that, like, we don't need to do that, right?
I
And
agree with
also,
you intellectually. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I need to say, because, like, you understand. I mean, you're clearly not stupid. So, like, whenever someone calls themselves an anarcho-capitalist, what I hear is like, oh, you want to abolish the government, and then there's a new government. It's corpocracy.
No. It's more like a voluntarism, a voluntary society.
Well, no, it isn't voluntary, because you have to participate in society, or else you have to go live off grid. And in that sense, there is no such thing as a non-participant, or like a forced participatory system, right? But, like, if everything is owned privately by corporations, right, by private businesses and private interests, that's just feudalism.
Can be. Yep.
No, I mean, it is necessarily, right? That's just corporate feudalism. That's what anarcho-capitalism is. And, like, what happens under not just feudalism but corporate feudalism, we have a pretty good glimpse of it here today. It is the most cruel and insane exploitation possible, right? We have seen banana republics. We see the fucking the cobalt mines and the lithium mines and the global south, right? We see how corporatists do not treat us like humans, right? They exploit us at every possible fucking point that they can, right? They aren't human.
But don't you think, and listen, I mean, I almost think AI could be a benefit in this regard. Like, don't you think if there was the right person in charge, that could actually create a beneficial, like, situation?
You're right. All we need is a perfect God Emperor with no flaws. And then when they die, we just need another perfect God Emperor with no flaws. And then after he dies, we just need another perfect God Emperor with no flaws.
Listen, I think there are a lot of benefits, and you're going to laugh at this. I actually think there are a lot of benefits to a monarchy in terms of continuity, in terms of having someone be in an apprenticeship role when they're kind of like in, like, like the Prince of Wales, or like the Crown Prince or whatever. They're waiting for their turn with the crown. So I think there's a lot of benefit to something like that if it's the right person and if it's the right system that's kind of like they have the right set of values.
So there's one of my favorite essays is called "On Power and Its Corrupting Effects: The Limits of Accountability Systems Within Power Structures." And what it looks at is just, there's a lot of research, obviously, on how humans behave in power structures. And it turns out that when a human is given power, when a human is given authority, when a human is able to, like, enforce on others, enforce rules or laws on others without any consequence to themselves, right? To be free from the consequences of their own actions, they become evil and stupid, right? They become psychopathic, right? Yeah, someone who is not a psychopath loses the ability progressively, right? And to varying degrees, but very quickly. They lose the capacity to represent the mental states of other people, right? They become dumber. They become unable to empathize with people, unable to properly assess the mental states of themselves or other people. They become unable to properly gauge how responsible they are for the consequences of their own actions, right? The material, not the social consequences, right? So if they fail at something, they won't be able to comprehend that it was their fault. They become narcissists. Do you see? This is every single human. There are no real exceptions to this. When a human is given power, they become evil. There is no real way to fix that. So like if you say that you want an absolute ruler, what you're really asking for is just a different type of oligarchy, because there is no such thing as an absolute ruler. He must have people under him who administer his kingdom, right? Or his empire or whatever, right? And those people also would not be perfect. There's no way they could be perfect, right? They will be corrupt.
Fair enough. And like I said, like I'm not actually committed to any sort of model right now. I know what I don't want, and I don't want a society in which like a ruling class controls the food supply. And I think that would be like a really bad idea in general. And like beyond that, I'm personally open to like, debate on what that could look like. But let me ask you this. I think this might be an interesting question to kind of like wrap it up with. Chandler, what if you like on your YouTube channel like actually doubled down and like just started talking about your ideas and sharing your ideas, and then in the true form of capitalism, people started liking your ideas and they started paying you money to just talk on the internet? Like, would that change your perception of like, capitalism and what it could like if you could literally like make like a nice living just talking and sharing your ideas on the internet, like how would that change your perception of reality?
It's funny you say that, because I am thinking of starting a YouTube channel or whatever, or
You
a social
should.
media or whatever.
Yeah, you
But
should.
it wouldn't change, because I already have a pretty decent standard of living, right? I make relatively good money as a carpenter, because I'm lucky to be smart and tall, relatively attractive, fucking cishet white man in a patriarchy, right? So I have lots of benefits because of that. I get paid more for doing the same work, right? And it is generally easier for me to find new work. But so I have a lot of benefits. I have a decent standard of living already, right? But when I see other people who are suffering, I'm full of frustration, sadness, rage, and the need to do something, right? But I can't help everyone. It wouldn't matter if I donated every last excess dollar that I have, because I'm not like well off, right? I have a comfortable standard of living, but every time I save up money, obviously, like all of us, right, something happens and my savings disappear, right? Everyone knows what that's like. One sec.
That's okay. Guys, please mount the like button if you have enjoyed this conversation with Chandler. I do think we're wrapping up. I apologize if I did not get to your super chat. I think I answered the spirit of all the super chats that came in. If you don't feel that way, I apologize. But we did have a lot of messages tonight.
Yeah, but no, it wouldn't change because the problem I have with capitalism isn't what it has done to me. It is what it does to everyone in our society, right? I'm not doing this for my own selfish benefit. Capitalism hurts the vast majority of us for the benefit of a tiny handful of piece of shit psychopaths. We can't keep doing this. Not only that, but we only have 30 to 50 years until total global ecological collapse, right? Capitalism cannot there cannot be a green capitalism, right? It will never be profitable. You can never exploit anyone's labor to regreen a desert, right? To heal a desertifying fucking grassland, or to fucking fix a broken ecosystem. It will only ever be profitable to exploit nature and to destroy the ecosystem, right? Our planet is dying. We are all fucked, right? We are going to literally die.
Will you come back for a second interview sometime?
Maybe, probably.
Maybe. All right. Well, maybe we'll do that another time. But Chandler, I do want to thank you for spending so much time with us tonight. You were very generous with your time and with your thoughts. We really do appreciate it. I know there were some trolls in the chat, but there were a lot of people that appreciated, even if they don't agree with you, that you took the time out to come and talk to us, because we do like talking with people who we might disagree with. So thank you for hanging out with us tonight. And is there anything else you'd like to say before we kind of conclude?
Eat the rich, feed the poor.
All right. Cool. Thank you, Chandler. I appreciate it. Guys, that is all we have for tonight. And I want to again appreciate everyone who stopped by the channel. Listen, people may not have been happy with the amount that I pushed back on Chandler, but I really did want to give him the opportunity to talk. And now that he's not in the studio anymore, I'm going to tell you guys the clip of the entire fucking interview that I'm going to be clipping and sharing the shit out of is Chandler saying there are teachers protesting down at the ICE facility. That is the clip of the interview. And we're going to clip that as soon as this is over. I'm downloading this shit. We are putting that out on the internet. There are teachers protesting down at the ICE facility. We're sending that to Jesse Kelly. I'll tell you that. Because when I was on Jesse Kelly's show last week, that was the thing that popped Jesse Kelly's eyes out of his head. There are teachers doing this? Yeah, there are teachers doing this. Yes. And now we know it for sure because Chandler told us that. But overall, listen, guys, and I really want to say this, like, I don't think that Chandler is some sort of evil mastermind. I really don't. I don't agree with a lot of Chandler's ideas. I think that is obvious. Oh, not Jesse Kelly, Jesse Waters. God damn it, Jesse Waters. Fucking hell. It's been a long day. I'm sick. Okay, Jesse Waters. You guys knew what I meant. I didn't mean Jesse Kelly. I mean Jesse Waters. You guys knew what I meant. I apologize. Sorry, Jesse Waters. I'm sick. Leave me alone. I have a cold. Whatever. Okay, you guys knew what I meant. But like, I don't think that Chandler is some sort of evil mastermind. And I really do appreciate him giving us his point of view. And obviously, guys, I don't think a lot of the stuff that he said was correct, but I also don't think, for people again who might be upset with me that I didn't push back on him more, I also don't think there's any point in actually arguing. I wanted to get him talking about what was going on and his perspective, and I don't think he's correct with a lot of things that he said. I think obviously Katie Davis Court was hit in the face with a pole. I don't think that guy that he kept referencing is stalking people down at the ICE facility, but the point of this conversation was to let him talk and to share his ideas and his perspective so that we could learn how he sees the world. So yeah, I saw a lot of people not disagreeing with some of Chandler's points. He did make some good points, right? He did. And so I want to thank all the mods. I know there was a lot of comments, especially towards the beginning. There was a lot of people that were acting a little. I hope Veli's not pissed off. I will say this: whoever banned Veli, you shouldn't have banned Veli. Okay, like Veli, I know was being a little antagonistic. And whoever did it may not have known who Veli was. But Veli, I am sorry if you feel disrespected. It was not my intention. And so we appreciate Veli. We appreciate Chandler coming on the show. We stand Veli, okay? Like, we're on Veli's team. That was not what I wanted, but I can't control everything that's happening all the time. Jeff, thank you. And thank you guys for sending in super chats. And again, if I didn't get to your question, I feel like I tried to go through the list and I tried to get all of the spirit of all of the questions answered. So I apologize if I didn't show yours specifically. There were just a lot of them and I wanted to try to keep the interview moving. Well, no, it wasn't softball questions. It was to get him talking about what he believes. I said at the beginning I wasn't debating him. So if you want to ask him more hardball questions, bring him on your YouTube channel and do your own fucking interview. I agree with this. And I think that, listen, I mean, Chandler has reasons for seeing the world like he does. I think that some of Chandler's ideas ultimately are a little unrealistic. And, but you know what? We're allowed to disagree. I should interview Veli next. You know what? That's not a bad idea. Veli's allowed to come on. I would love to have Veli on. Yeah, like let's get Veli on. I would absolutely love to have Veli on. I would love to talk to Veli about his experience. Actually, that is a really good fucking idea. I am going to reach out to Veli. I want to have Veli on the channel. I think that would be a great interview. That was a great interview. He's not dumb. However, he has a real twisted worldview that's detached from reality, like every other leftist. He also seems like he has an angry demeanor. I did not view Chandler as angry. Okay. I did not view Chandler as fundamentally angry. I think that Chandler, I didn't pick up on the anger issue. That's not something I would agree with, but I do appreciate the super chat. Anyway, hey, JD Delay in the chat. Yeah, we'll try to get Veli on sometime to talk to him. All right, guys, that's going to wrap us up for today. Thank you. Thank you to everyone who sent in super chats. I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Tomorrow at 5 p.m., we're doing happy hour. We are watching the Nick Fuentes interview with Tucker Carlson. I cannot wait to watch this interview. I have seen so many clips from this interview already. I feel like I already have watched the Nick Fuentes interview, but I wanted to wait for happy hour so we could do it on Fridays. And I'm really looking forward to it. And I think that, one of the, it has been so glorious. Just as a general aside, it has been so glorious to watch the absolute Zionist meltdown that has happened on Twitter over the last couple days. Ever since this interview dropped, it has just been a thing of beauty. And did you guys see the Heritage Foundation statement today? The Heritage Foundation came out and released a statement, and they were like, you can criticize Israel and not be anti-Semitic. And no, we do not disavow Tucker Carlson, you assholes. I was like, holy shit. The Heritage Foundation just... James Lindsay in shambles. All the Zionist bullshit in shambles. We won. They lost. Go fuck yourself, Israel. Go fuck yourself to everyone who ever smeared and lied about Nick Fuentes. Go fuck yourself to everyone who smeared and lied about Tucker Carlson. All the Zionists in shambles. It is so beautiful. It has been the one bright spot in this week when I have had a massive head cold. I cannot say enough good things about it. So we're going to watch the Nick Fuentes Tucker Carlson interview tomorrow at 5 p.m. And I'm going to drink some beer, even though I'm sick. And you guys are going to come and we're going to have a good old time. Okay. It's been a long week. And that's what we're going to do. So I want to thank everyone for hanging out. I hope everyone enjoyed the interview. Share the hell out of it. Share the hell out of the clip that we're going to make of Chandler saying there are teachers protesting down at the ICE facility, because that is the clip of the entire interview. That clip alone will break the fucking internet. And we got it because we allowed him to talk. And that's the thing, guys. You don't need to always be debating with leftists. You don't always need to be debating with people you disagree with. You just allow them to talk. And then they're going to tell you what they're going to tell you. And when they tell you what they're going to tell you, then you clip that shit and you put it on the internet so that other people understand what's going on. So I appreciate all you guys. I'll be back tomorrow. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
is it you're trying to do with your life?
Play the piano for the people.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.